2020 hit pageants hard. And whilst everyone else is talking about how to walk, how to talk, and how to dress, no one's answering the real questions like, what should I do when I've lost all motivation? How can I regain my confidence? How do I pick myself up after a soul-destroying pageant experience? Or should I even be doing pageants in the first place, especially after 2020? It's time to make sure your inner game is as strong as your outer game. It's time to make sure you're aligned so that you're pulled towards your goals rather than being pulled apart. It's time to put that imposter syndrome to rest once and for all. I'm your host, Adrian Kwan, and welcome to the Pageant Boss Podcast. I am pissed off, pardon my French. I was having a discussion with a really good friend of mine, and she's in a job currently which she really dislikes, and she has to deal with, I'm not even going to say borderline abusive customers, just abusive customers. And this friend of mine, she is the nicest, sweetest person that I know. She's a lot more intelligent than she gives herself credit for. And the only, what's really annoying me about the whole situation, it's not just this one situation, but it's also the conversations that I've been having with you guys and the conversations that I've been having in the coaching sessions. They've almost all of them come down to, you guys have such low opinions of yourself. Your self-esteem is so low. Now, I'm saying this and realizing that there are probably people who could give you this sort of pep talk, if that's what it is, and have more of a leg to stand on, because I can be very harsh on myself. But I figure, you know what? I'm someone who gets it. So I'm kind of yelling at myself as much as I'm going to yell at you. But when I'm coaching people, coaching you guys, coaching queens, international queens, multiple title holders, and your self-esteem, your opinion of yourself is still so low. Okay, first thing you got to understand, the first thing that should be really clear, success, the outside success has absolutely crap all to do, again, pardon my French, has absolutely crap all to do with your self-esteem. In fact, as I've pointed out in multiple episodes before, what happens very often is that if you don't have high self-esteem and then you succeed, your anxiety or your imposter syndrome, for want of a better word, actually gets worse. Because now, if you think you're an imposter but you haven't, let's say, achieved much, let's just take, for example, the pageant world, then you've kind of got a little problem, right? But let's say, God forbid, you win a national title or an international title and you haven't done the inside work to overcome your imposter syndrome. Now that imposter syndrome, it's not a little baby monster. It's a huge Godzilla that's going to tear down the city being your mental and, mental health and well-being. Because you've got this giant big title and you still have low self-esteem. Now that gap is bigger and your imposter syndrome is going to be even worse. So I've been, there are two areas where the self-esteem, the low self-esteem really shines through. One is definitely in your job. Now, there's a reason that I'm so big on entrepreneurship and wanting to help you guys start your own business, because so many of you have jobs that you absolutely cannot stand. It's not even that you don't mind them, you hate them. You find them soul-crushing, soul-destroying, or at the very least, you're only doing them because you're under this delusion that you can't do anything else. Now, I'm not going to say that you can do whatever you want and, just go out right now and be a brain surgeon. I mean, if you really honestly think there aren't that many skills that you have that could lead to better jobs, then you go and learn the skills. I'm not saying you can just sit there and expect everything to fall in your lap. There's going to be people walking through this car park going to be wondering, why the hell is this guy ranting and raving at the camera? Anyway, but if you are not happy in your job, and you've got to be thinking, like, how much of your life are you going to be spending there? Most of us, it's at least 8 hours, right? 9 to 5. So you're spending, let's say, at least 1/3 of your life at your job. Low self-esteem, right? And you think, I can't do any better. And every day you go in, I think of it like a little bit of your soul is being destroyed. Your self-esteem is being lowered a little bit more, a little bit, until, as I was telling my friend today, because she said she had a friend, one of her friends had been working at the same place and had been there for 3 years and just had given up the will to live, basically, had given up the will to think that she could do any better, and she was just resigned to her fate. That, by the way, it's called learned helplessness, where you get beat down so much that sooner or later you just feel like you can't do anything about it, or that this is the way it's supposed to be, so you just don't have any momentum or motivation to do anything about it. The example that really comes to mind is elephants, when it comes, I believe, to circuses. And sometimes, I mean, it's been so long since I've been to a circus, but you'll see a giant adult elephant chained to a wooden stake in the ground, like a tiny one, like compared to the size of the adult elephant. If it just pulled on it a bit, it'd pull the whole stake out. Yet the adult elephant will not budge from the stake, doesn't even try to. Now, why is that? Well, it's because when that elephant is a baby elephant, they chain that elephant to the same wooden stake. Now, by the way, when it's a baby elephant, it can't break free. So the baby elephant is trying to tug at the stake, can't pull it out. Tries again, can't pull it out. Tries again, can't pull it out. After XYZ number of attempts to pull it out, it goes, what does it learn? It goes, there's no point trying to pull this stake up because I'm not strong enough to. So that then becomes learned helplessness. So when it becomes an adult elephant, even though its physical body has been upgraded, let's say, it's an emotional body, its emotional intelligence has not. And it still believes it can't pull up that stake. That is learned helplessness. And that is what doing a job 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, 12, 14, 16 hours a day for 5, 6, 7 days a week will do to you. So if that resonates with you, that story of the baby elephant, and you think you might have a bit of a case of learned helplessness, you really need to jolt yourself awake and go, well, what is real? Like, what's the beliefs, the limiting beliefs in the story that I've been telling myself and believing about myself because I've been beat down so much? And then what's actually real? Like, okay, maybe I don't have the skills, but I could go learn them. Okay, I'm not perfect. I'm not the most intelligent person in the world, but I could learn this. I could learn this. I could learn this. I could give it a go. I could change careers, give that a go, and adjust until I actually find something that I like. Because, I don't know how it is in your country, but here in Australia, we're supposed to decide what we do in uni at 18, and that kind of decides what you do for the rest of your life for a lot of us. So there's this weird thing that at the age of 18, we're somehow suddenly supposed to know what we want to do with the rest of our lives. And, most of us take our best guess, and then a lot of us go, hang on, this is not what I want to do at all. Because, look, the statistics today will tell you that I think on average, the average person in their lifetime will now have like 4, 5, 6, or 7 full-time different careers. I'm not talking about different jobs, right? I'm not talking about you go and work at 7 different banks. I'm talking about they'll have a career as a financier. Then they're going to try being a lawyer. Then they'll try being an entrepreneur. Then they'll try being a restaurateur. Then they'll try being a social media influencer. Like 4, 5, 6, or 7 full-time different careers, not even jobs. So how the hell are you supposed to know at the age of 18 what you want to do with the rest of your life is beyond me. I'm not a huge fan of the education system for many reasons. That's one of them. So that is one area where low self-esteem really, really comes out again and again. Jobs. Specifically, you guys doing jobs that are not rewarding you for what you're worth, or let's say they might be paying relatively well, according to whatever you believe is well, but they're absolutely draining your soul. And that is not a trade you want to be making long term. Look, I get a lot of us struggling finances because of 2020 and other reasons. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do, but that's got to be a short term solution. You got to have some sort of long term solution in play. Otherwise that learned helplessness will kick in. Okay. And this again, why I'm so big on entrepreneurship, not because I want you to own a business, because owning a business in many ways is riskier and takes a lot more hard work than just going to a job. I know I've done both. But if you can get it working, right, and you learn the skills of entrepreneurship, the reward, forget the financial freedom. Maybe you earn 20% less, but you're not doing a job that you hate. You're not having to deal with abusive customers. And let's say the upside normally is that you can scale your entrepreneurship, your online business, if you do it right. Then you can earn more money than you were at your full-time job, and you have the freedom to travel the world or to do your advocacy or to help other people, or just because of your success with entrepreneurship, you can be an example to other people and help them do the same thing for them. So you learn your freedom, and then you can pass that on to other people, right? You're not going to be able to pass that on to someone else when you don't know it yourself. You can't teach someone entrepreneurship when you're working at a crappy 9-to-5 job that you hate. Right? Harsh truth. The second area where, oh God, it really, really hurts me is in relationships, specifically intimate relationships, and then self-esteem, specifically abusive or controlling relationships. Or you might just call it, oh, she keeps picking the wrong guys. Okay. Look, whenever someone has a string of bad relationships, not just one, right? So we've all been in that situation where chemistry takes over and then we're going, oh my God, what have I done? Who are you? Sort of thing, right? And sometimes people just grow apart. That's fine. But if you have had a string of bad relationships, at some point, you've got to really honestly stop going, well, it was his fault. It was his fault. It was his fault. It was her fault. Her fault. Because you go, you know what? Those last 10 relationships, who was the one person in common? Wasn't them, it was you. And maybe you've been taking that same emotional baggage or that same limiting belief with you into every single relationship. And I'm not saying the other person's perfect, because God forbid, there's always two sides of the coin, no matter how thinly you slice it. But you have to take some responsibility for that as well. But abusive relationships is where it really, really makes me sad. Like, it breaks your heart. Because you'll see, and it's often, I don't know why, but it's often these hyper-intelligent, successful, attractive, creative, whatever you want to call them, right? And you just go, you could have anyone you want in the world. And yet you somehow ended up with this complete douchebag who's abusive, calls you names, drags you down, won't let you go out to see your friends, controls your finances. Sometimes even he's or she, right, your partner is not earning the money. You're earning the money, and yet they tell you what you're allowed to do with it. And then what happens? I mean, the physical abuse, don't get me started. My first book, From Fear to Freedom, I interviewed several women who had been through horrific domestic violence. I'm talking potentially life-ending, blood all over the floor, knocked unconscious, even gunshots, okay? And they say, by the way, the most dangerous time, if you're in an abusive relationship, you need to get help, but the most dangerous time is when you decide to end it. That is the most dangerous time. So please seek professional help. There are websites in pretty much every Western country that I know of, where you can hit a button right on the screen that if your abusive partner walks up behind you to see what you're doing, it will close the screen straight away. There are also anonymous numbers that you can text or talk to so it doesn't appear on your phone bill. Now, I know that sounds kind of, oh my God, you're being dramatic. Those things exist for a reason, because they have to. That's how controlling these people are. And by the way, if you're going, oh, I never knew those things existed, that's chances are that you're in an abusive relationship, right? If that's triggering, if you're even thinking that's a great idea, something that you need to get a hold of, please make the commitment that you're going to get help. And I don't want you to have to try and get out of this yourself, okay? But back to my point, the number 2 area where self-esteem is really going to hurt you is your intimate relationship. So number 1, your career, you're spending 8, 10, 12 hours a day or 80 hours a week doing a job that you hate. And then you come back home to a relationship that you hate, right? In fact, you might still love the person, but you know the relationship is toxic. They drain you, they abuse you, maybe they hit you, they control you, whatever it is, they bring you down, right? One of the things I think you need to have in a relationship is the two of you need to grow together. You either grow together or you grow apart. Who wants a relationship where when you're together, you're less than you could have been by yourself? What's the point, right? So in a relationship where you have low self-esteem, it's really going to hurt you. It either shows up in kind of settling for less than you deserve, like safe options, like you go with the safe guy or the safe girl, or worst case scenario ends up, as I said, in domestic, violent, abusive relationships. Because the only reason that you'd settle for that, apart from the physical fear, like don't get me wrong, like if you are being bashed and hit and beat within an inch of your life, then I completely understand it's not easy to get at. That's why it's incredibly difficult and dangerous to get at. That's why I'm saying seek professional help. But generally it starts with a smaller thing, which is a lack of self-esteem. Because at some point you would be triggered to going, hang on, this person ain't treating me right. And you have a moment's decision there to go whether you're going to accept that or not. And if you decide to accept it, it's normally because you're used to settling for less than you're worth. It's normally that learned helplessness. And as much as a crappy job or customers abusing you is horrible, at least you get to go home, right? Where you can hopefully be safe. An abusive relationship, you might not spend as much time in your relationship as your job, but I think the effects can be even worse. Because the old adage is, if you're not happy in your relationship, you're not happy. If you ain't happy in your relationship, you ain't happy. I don't care how much money you're earning, how many titles you have as a pageant queen. If you are not happy in your relationship, you are not happy. Okay? And here's a harsh truth for you. If you have a crappy relationship, you are not a good role model as a pageant queen. You're not. So look at it that way, if that motivates you. Address that part of you, because the three main areas that we all need to address: health, wealth, right, or career, and relationships. What am I trying to say? So your physical and mental and emotional health, right? Your wealth, which is your finances and your career, and your relationships. Yes, friends and family, but also your intimate relationship. And if you are a big title holder and young women are looking up to you and you're in a job that you hate, you're in a relationship that you know is absolutely wrong for you, I'm sorry, but you don't make a great role model. You can try as hard as you want. And I'm not saying you're a bad person. Please don't misunderstand me. But you're going to start having limiting beliefs if you keep accepting having a job or having a relationship less than what you deserve. And then you can't help but project those limiting beliefs into the very young women that you're supposed to you're supposed to inspire. You can't help it, because it's just going to become part of you or part of your subconscious. You know, there's some people that we just love to be around and we don't really know why. And then there's some people that just drag us down and we don't really know why. And then, you know, you tend to hang around people who are like who? Like you, right? I'm sure there's some subtle differences, but we tend to hang around people who have the same belief structures as us around money, around relationships, around friendships, around work, right? So, for example, if you go and hang out with your mates on a Friday and you all get drunk every Friday, that's a sign. Number two, whilst you're getting drunk, you complain about how your work went, and all you do is bitch about the gossip from your office space, pardon my French again. And then the third one, I see this with guys all the time, is they refer to their girl, right, or their wife that they used to be so in love with as ball and chain, right? Or they go home and they're completely beat down. So when they go out and get drunk with their mates, they're all acting manly and acting in control until they get a phone call from their wife, and then they go back to being completely useless. All right. Or vice versa with the women. Like, I can't stand it when I see a bunch of women get together and bitch and complain about their partners. Don't do that. I say that because I worked as I said, at an all-girls school. Please don't get me wrong. I'm not just talking about women in general and slagging them off for no reason. The number of private school mothers that I would see get together, have coffee after their yoga class or their green tea, chai, mocha, choca, whatever it is, and then just start complaining and gossiping about their husbands, about, you know, work, even if they didn't have work. It was just like, oh, did you guys never leave school? Really? Because you still sound like a bunch of high schoolers, right? But to circle back to the topic, number one, your work. Number two, your relationship. These are the two areas where low self-esteem are going to come up again and again and again and again. So let me wrap this up by saying I never want to just yell at myself or yell at you guys and not give you some sort of ideas of solution. I keep saying that, you know, you get to decide when you're worthy. You get to decide when you are enough. So you decide when you give yourself permission to feel enough. Now, whilst that's really true, I also know that can be really hard to do, especially if you have a lot of negative influences in your life, whether that's people, or whether that's friends, family, maybe parents, or you have a partner that's abusive, or you have a job that just makes you feel worthless. So you know what? The only real solution, and this is not an overnight solution, but it will point you and me in the right direction, start weeding out the negative influences and start building in the positive ones. And I say it's not overnight because maybe you can't do that all overnight. Like if you've got a crappy job and an abusive partner, or at least a controlling partner, maybe you can't just change all of that overnight, but you can start. right? Maybe you can limit the time that you have with these negative influences, right? And then start filling them, replacing them with positive influences. Because if you just get rid of something, it leaves a vacuum, and nature abhors a vacuum. So it's just going to fill it up with the next random thing that appears. And, the things that randomly appear in our lives, not normally the best quality, right? If we just get rid of one relationship and then we just leave a vacuum and the next person who pops along, oh, well, I'm in a relationship with you. I don't really think that's a smart way of doing it. And I know neither do you, right? So fill them up with positive influences. And you go, Adrian, that's great, but I've got no one around me who's a positive influence. And I know that can be possible. Get them either on the internet. So find a mentor on the internet. I'm not saying you have to pay them, but look on YouTube and find someone who's inspiring. Books are a great one that have come up again and again and again. And when you read a good book, you sometimes feel like it's having a personal conversation with you. And that can become a positive influence, right? Or get on a podcast and go for a walk. You go for a walk, that's got the added benefit of you getting away from those negative influences, whack in your earphones and listen to an uplifting podcast, right? Whatever lifts your soul. It could even just be entertainment, but something that makes you feel better. And then gradually what you're going to find as you get rid of the negative influences and you start inserting more and more positive influences. If you're like that baby elephant that I was talking about before, right? And that adult elephant that's got that learned helplessness going on, over time, you're going to be that elephant. You're going to go, hang on, you know what? The last time I really tried changing my life was a long time ago. And I kind of gave up. Maybe I've got a chance. Maybe I can do this. Maybe it's worth one more go. And then you pull at that stake, it rips out, and you go, holy crap. Maybe I can change my life after all. And that's the point we need to get you to. It's that point of threshold where you go, you know what? Actually, I can do this. And then once you get to that point of threshold and then you do decide that you're enough, the whole game changes. I'm not going to say, by the way, it's all over then. Because, what tends to happen in life is you overcome one obstacle and then that becomes easy. It doesn't even register as an obstacle to you. So God or the universe, having a sense of humor, tends to give you bigger obstacles, right? But it's like, as I said in one of the previous episodes, you're always going to have challenges or problems, you might call them. But the sign that you're living a life well lived is that those problems are becoming better quality problems, right? So don't think that you're going to get to the point like success. Don't think that the definition of success is a life where I have no problems. No, always got problems. Just want to make sure that, let's say, the problems that you have right now are better quality problems than the problems you had a year ago, right? So maybe a year ago, let's take financial example, you had no money and you didn't know whether you could eat. Now the issue that you're having is, which bank account can I put my savings into? And, this one, that one, or I don't really know how to invest my money effectively. And you go, that's a problem. Well, I'm like, yeah, that's a problem. But think back to a year when you didn't have any money to invest, right? So keep that in mind. Have a healthy perspective. But I really, really, really want you guys to feel like you are more than enough and not have to wait for some dying excuse to feel that. And I'll wrap up by saying I was having a conversation with a mother of one of my friends, and my friend being a pageant queen, international title holder, very, very successful, very, very well known. And the mother was telling me when they'd been away at the latest competition and her daughter had been going through a tough time. And she said, why don't you go and just message Adrian? Like, just go and talk to Adrian. Because, you go and message him and then you'll come back and you'll be all smiling and happy. And, that was probably one of the nicest things anyone's ever said about me, that someone could be in such a down state and feeling like the world's against them. They can have one conversation with me, come back, and suddenly the world's okay. And to be honest, it wasn't even a conversation. It was just a couple of Facebook messages. But the reason I tell you that is, if you feel like you need that sort of a conversation, and I'm feeling this is happening like with all my coaching sessions, is that the person leaves feeling really happy and powerful. We may not even have discussed pageantry, but they know they can go crush the pageantry goals because they feel powerful, right? They feel like they regained their personal power. So if you do feel like you need one of those conversations, then book in at thepageantboss.com. I'll leave it at that. I'm not here to do the hard sell, but I do want to tell you that because there aren't many people who can do that sort of a conversation with you, certainly not in the pageantry space. So that's an option, okay? I'm going to leave it there. Decide that you are enough, please. Nothing breaks my heart more than seeing really good people being sort of having the life suffocated out of them slowly over, months and years and settling for less than they're worth. It really breaks my heart, and it does really piss me off because I want to take them, I want to shake them and go, you're this, you're great, you're this, you're that, you're intelligent, you're creative, you're blah, blah, and like, you just can't see it. They can see it in everyone else, mind you, they just can't see it in themselves. But anyway, I hope this conversation really helped. I know it was a bit of a rant and a bit of yelling at you, but sometimes that's what we need, isn't it? It's a kick. Sometimes we need a hug, sometimes we need a kick. We kind of need both at different times. Thanks for listening, and I'll speak to you in the next episode. Hey, it's Adrian again. Thanks for listening to this episode. Just a quick reminder to come and join our private Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/The Pageant Boss. You're going to be getting early access, special offers and discounts to all our upcoming products, courses and events. So make sure you head there now. It's free to join for the moment at facebook.com/groups/The Pageant Boss. And remember, the link to join is in the show notes to this episode. So click that link, join our group, and I'll speak to you in the next episode of the Pageant Boss podcast.